think about Hollywood. I don't have much further need for Hollywood myself. I don't know how you guys feel, but yeah, I think it's a very strange, funny time where everybody would love to be able to be themselves, but they can't because they must fall in line with the person in front of them.
And defiance comes with a price. For years, Johnny Depp was untouchable. He wasn't just a movie star. He was a global phenomenon. Studio executives wanted him. Directors chased him. Audiences adored him. His name alone could launch billion-dollar franchises and turn ordinary films into worldwide events. Then suddenly, almost overnight, everything seemed to collapse. The question that continues to haunt fans is simple. How does someone go from being one of Hollywood's most valuable stars to becoming one of its most isolated figures so quickly? The timing is what makes people suspicious. According to reports and discussions surrounding documents connected to Jeffrey Epstein, references to Depp allegedly appeared among names connected to invitations. Yet no evidence has emerged showing that Depp accepted any invitation or became involved in Epstein's activities. Instead, the narrative that has captured public attention centers around something much more dramatic: the claim that Depp allegedly said no. And if he did, what happened next? Only a handful of people survive in Hollywood long enough to see behind every curtain. Johnny Depp is one of them. After decades of navigating fame, fortune, scandals, betrayals, and reinventions, he has witnessed the industry from angles most people never will. That's why many observers paid close attention when discussions began emerging about how dramatically his life changed after those alleged invitations surfaced. At first, nothing looked unusual. The machine kept moving, the movies kept coming, the red carpets remained crowded. But according to many who have followed Depp's downfall closely, the cracks began appearing from inside his own circle, not from strangers, not from critics, from people he trusted. And that's where the story becomes unsettling. During the years of public controversy surrounding his legal battle with Amber Heard, Depp made comments suggesting that some individuals who distanced themselves from him already knew facts that painted a very different picture than the one dominating headlines. Think about that for a moment. If people privately believed one thing but publicly acted another way, what does that reveal about the forces operating behind the scenes? Suddenly, old friendships seemed fragile. Professional alliances disappeared. Industry support evaporated. People who once praised him became strangely quiet. Calls reportedly stopped coming. Invitations disappeared. Doors that had always been open appeared locked. Coincidence? Maybe, but Hollywood rarely runs on coincidence alone. What made the situation even more shocking was the speed. 1 week, Depp was attached to major productions. The next, conversations were shifting toward replacements, cancellations, and distancing. Massive franchises moved forward without him. Studio executives who once celebrated his success appeared eager to separate themselves from controversy. The pattern was impossible to ignore. The public was told it was business, risk management, brand protection. Yet many fans saw something different. They saw a coordinated retreat, a synchronized movement so rapid that it felt less like independent decisions and more like a signal spreading through the industry. One executive backs away, another follows, then another, then another, until suddenly an entire empire of support has vanished. And while headlines focused on courtroom battles, another question quietly lingered in the background. Who benefits when one of Hollywood's biggest stars falls? Because behind every public scandal, there are private conversations. Behind every headline, there are meetings nobody sees. Behind every cancellation, there are decisions made far from public view. The deeper people looked into Depp's story, the more they found themselves staring at a puzzle filled with missing pieces. Pieces that still don't fit, pieces that continue raising uncomfortable questions, and perhaps most troubling of all, pieces that suggest Johnny Depp's downfall may have involved far more than anyone originally realized. If the first phase of Johnny Depp's downfall looked like abandonment, the second phase looked like something far more dangerous. It looked like destruction, not the kind that happens all at once, but the kind that unfolds slowly, relentlessly, piece by piece, until the target barely recognizes his own life. And according to many observers, this is exactly what happened. The narrative surrounding Depp became so overwhelmingly negative that it seemed impossible to escape. Every old mistake resurfaced. Every rumor gained new life. Every controversy was amplified. The public wasn't just hearing criticism, they were being flooded with it, day after day, story after story, headline after headline. Then came something even more shocking. Former associates, former employees, former friends, and former business partners began appearing in legal proceedings and public discussions. Suddenly, people who had known Depp for decades were sharing stories that painted an increasingly troubling picture. Some described professional difficulties. Others discussed financial concerns. Others spoke about personal struggles. And while each individual account carried its own context, together they created a powerful narrative that seemed to dominate public perception. But critics of the situation noticed something strange. Why was every negative story arriving at exactly the moment Depp was fighting for his reputation? Why did years-old issues suddenly become front-page material? Why did so many damaging accounts emerge during the most vulnerable period of his career? To some observers, it felt less like random testimony and more like an avalanche timed for maximum impact. The consequences were devastating. The man who had once stood at the center of billion-dollar franchises found himself increasingly isolated. The psychological toll became impossible to ignore. Depp openly described reaching some of the darkest moments of his life, not simply because of financial losses or damaged headlines, but because of betrayal. Because nothing cuts deeper than discovering who remains loyal when everything falls apart. And perhaps that is what made his story resonate with so many people. Fans watched as Hollywood figures who had worked alongside him for years remained silent. Others publicly distanced themselves. Meanwhile, ordinary supporters continued standing by him. They filled social media. They attended court proceedings. They defended him online. As the divide between industry reaction and public reaction widened, people began asking difficult questions. Why did audiences seem willing to forgive while powerful institutions remained hesitant? The answer, according to some theories circulating around the controversy, lies in the hidden machinery of influence. The world of crisis managers, corporate advisors, legal strategists, reputation specialists, the people whose names rarely appear in headlines but whose fingerprints allegedly appear on nearly every major scandal. These are the figures many believe shape narratives before the public even realizes a narrative is being shaped. According to those theories, once a person becomes a problem for powerful interests, an entire system can activate. Media pressure, financial pressure, professional pressure, social pressure, not necessarily through one grand conspiracy, but through countless smaller decisions moving in the same direction. One executive declines a project. One publication emphasizes negative coverage. One partnership quietly disappears. One opportunity suddenly evaporates. Over time, the effect becomes overwhelming. The financial consequences alone were staggering. Lost projects, lost endorsements, lost opportunities, lost years. Supporters point to estimates suggesting enormous damage to Depp's earning potential, arguing that few stars in modern history have experienced such a dramatic professional collapse. Yet even after courtroom victories shifted public perception, many of those lost opportunities never fully returned. That reality continues fueling suspicion. Because if the downfall was justified, why wasn't the recovery immediate? If the public largely welcomed Depp back, why did major institutions move so cautiously? Why does the shadow of those years still linger over conversations about his career? Those questions remain unanswered, and that is why the Epstein invitation theory continues capturing attention, not because there is evidence proving a connection, but because people are searching for explanations that make sense of a story filled with contradictions. A superstar rises, an invitation is allegedly extended, a refusal allegedly follows, a spectacular downfall begins, a legal victory arrives. Yet complete rehabilitation never comes. For some, those events are unrelated. For others, the pattern feels impossible to ignore. What makes this story so powerful is that nobody seems to agree on where the truth ends and speculation begins. Was Johnny Depp simply caught in the storm of public controversy? Or did he become the target of forces far larger than himself? Was his downfall the result of personal mistakes, industry politics, media dynamics, or something hidden beneath all three? One thing is certain. Johnny Depp survived a battle that would have ended many careers. He lost fortunes, he lost opportunities, he lost relationships, yet he remained standing. And now, years later, the questions surrounding what really happened continue growing louder instead of fading away. Because in Hollywood, the most dangerous stories are never the ones everyone talks about. They're the ones nobody can fully explain. And perhaps that is why this story still feels unfinished.